On this episode of Just Informed Talk, the latest new Q post want us to look at a quid pro quo possible situation between Hillary Clinton's lawyers and the FBI. Plus, we're going to review Maxine Waters' official financial disclosures. There's something there that Q wants us to see. Plus, NORAD is planning military exercises in D.C., and you know what that means. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. First of all, I always say thank you to everybody who's come here and hit that subscribe button. If you haven't, please come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you turn off notifications to be notified when these videos get posted. So, today we are going to start right here, right where we left off. Our last post we covered on the Q board was Q post 2694, and now we're going to be picking up right here with Q post 2695. And of course, before we go any further, I always like to tell everyone to come back here. If you're wondering what in the heck is QAnon, you have no idea what I'm talking about, come here to the landing page. There's this video right here called What is QAnon and the Great Awakening? It'll give you all the information you need to know about what QAnon and the Great Awakening is, how to get involved, where to find the information, how to do the research, all that kind of stuff is in there. So you guys are going to want to go check out that tape and watch these last few videos. And to everyone who's helping out, I put up a video today about just the craziness that's going on here on YouTube on a regular basis. So I appreciate all of your thoughts, prayers, your warm wishes, your reaching out. I really appreciate that. So check out that content. If you want to get caught up on the latest Q posts, watch these last few videos, and that's going to give you that content. Now, this is where we're going to pick up, right where we left off. I'm sorry for the delay in getting the video up. I've been dealing with some issues here, but obviously we're back, and we got another video coming, and they should be pumping out regularly pretty soon. But anyway, this is the next one. It's a screenshot that was posted here by Q of President Trump seeing obviously this lovely woman in the crowd here wearing a Q Where We Go One, We Go All shirt. And President Trump clearly is pointing at her and basically giving her I don't know, an ovation, clap, or a point or something. It's hard to tell. And here's another angle on it. That's her shirt, Q Where We Go One, We Go All. And the Anon who posted this, right, unless this was, yeah, it was an Anon who posted these pictures, said, not a t-shirt. She laid a square cloth with the QAnon, or with the Q on it when POTUS came by. Perfect idea when they don't allow Q shirts in. So she basically brought a handkerchief or a cloth here that had it already on that, and then she held it up, which, you know, kudos. That's pretty awesome. Anyway, the next one here, it connects or links us to this tweet, right, which actually is of the interaction itself. You guys can kind of see the video where what President Trump does. He looks right at her. I mean, he stops and looks right at her and points. And yeah, I mean, the proof kind of is in the pudding when it comes to all of this. We all know the connection between QAnon and the president, but even though we all know that fairly well, you know, they're going to keep coming after us, I guess, as far as censorship goes and trying to keep us out of the public view. But here it is, President Trump, quoting President Trump saying, "Did they get the clip? Yes, Mr. President." POTUS: "Did they catch all the references? Yes, Mr. POTUS." POTUS: "Show me." "Thank you, Mr. John Vineyard. Thank you, Anons. Return publicly Q." So I think what this is referring to is, first of all, you know, not only did President Trump have that little moment there that we just saw on the Twitter page, but we also had a bunch of other references that were made in the speech itself that I'm working on videos that are going to cover that kind of stuff. But you guys are going to be impressed because there was so much there. And it's the first rally since we've gone through this whole cycle of basically everything you can imagine. And now they're back publicly, and President Trump's all but willing to endorse it because look at what we're doing. We're going around the mainstream media, and that's why they hate or dislike us, and that's why they want to censor the videos and knock them out of the suggested video list. I'm sorry I keep harping on this, but it's really what's happening behind the scenes is that they are taking the content that's produced by this movement and they're trying to derail it, but we won't let that happen. And Mr. President, all I can say is thank you for an incredible speech, and truly thank you for everything this movement stands for. And I think we're all in agreement when it says that. Obviously, thanks to John Vineyard, who supplied that video, and all the Anons out there. So I think that's great. I think that's amazing. That makes me happy, and I'm glad to see it. So the next one is an Anon posting saying, "We're here to the end, sir." And Q responds saying, "You will never be alone. We are united. Godspeed, Patriot. Where we go one, we go all. Q." And that couldn't be more true to me, because look at this movement and where we've gone with it. I've been covering this for over a year now, and I can tell you that the direction that we're heading is we're bringing our country back to greatness, and that is through the help of many Anons, many patriots, many people in the armed services, many people in law enforcement and other areas of politics. I've met people firsthand. I can tell you that we're all a part of the same movement here. We love our country, want what's best for our country, and and you don't have to be a U.S. citizen. This is a global movement about ending corruption and restoring national sovereignty and restoring, the norms to law. Equality of law has been lost to a degree for a while in our country when it comes to, if you're politically connected or politically elite, you're held to a different justice system. And that's exactly what we're going to get into here with this next post from Q. So first, it points to this a Fox News article, which talks about something we talked about before in the last video. If you guys go back and watch it, we talk about this directly. I think it was in this video right here, where we discuss the fact that Hillary Clinton's lawyer was having these conversations with, apparently now it's starting to come out and look like it was Lisa Page over at the FBI, where they were basically having a quid pro quo arrangement where, in exchange for something, they were looking to have the FBI do something for them. Now, what are those somethings? According to this report, it talks about how there was a promise to deliver more legal attaches to the FBI in exchange for having the emails actually declassified or lowered in their classification status, which, again, what this story is talking about is the fact that there's no indication right now that the proposed arrangement ever took place, but that is besides the point. The point is that they were scrambling to answer these emails that were being sent to them and doing their best to cooperate with lawyers who are requesting a quid pro quo exchange. Now, just offering it is bad enough in and of itself, right? Saying, if you look past the crime that I've committed, when I become politically powerful, I will provide your office with more resources. Do you understand why that's bad? That's kind of what this story highlights to a degree, among a few other things, and how it all kind of wraps in with the top brass at the FBI, others who were involved, including James Baker. And, to me, they want to say what they want to say about this, but right here at the end of the piece, it actually sums it all up perfectly. It says, through it all, the trove of documents suggested that top to bottom FBI brass were convinced they were acting appropriately. Can you believe that? They even were sending out emails to one another saying how they are proud of how they handled all of this and they should be proud of themselves, right? So, this is the story. You guys can make of it as you may. Let's hear what Q has to say about it. It says, shall we play a game? Where are they now? And it says, referring to Public Optics, retired left refers to fired forced, okay? Meaning, if an article writes something like, oh, they retired or they left, what it's really trying to say is that they were fired or they were forced out. And here's just a little short list of people who have been fired and removed from the FBI. You have James Comey, the director, Andrew McCabe, the deputy director, Jim Rubicki, the chief of staff and senior counselor, James Baker, the general counsel, Bill Priestap, director of counterintelligence. That's Peter Strzok's boss. These are all people who are fired, mind you. Peter Strzok, the Deputy Assistant Director of Counterintelligence. Lisa Page, Office of General Counsel. Mike Cortan, Assistant Director for Public Affairs. Josh Campbell, Special Assistant to Comey. Michael Steinbach, Head of National Security Division. John Glackalone, predecessor of Steinbach, Head of National Security Division. James Turgel, Assistant Director. Greg Bauer, the top congressional liaison. Tricia Anderson, the Principal Deputy General Counsel. Randy Coleman, the Assistant Director of Counterintelligence. And who is Randy Coleman? Randy Coleman's the man whose notes you saw in the Office of Inspector General's report on the Hillary Clinton emails and the FBI's handling of it, where he made annotated notes which made reference to Anthony Weiner and Anthony Weiner's texting sexually explicit with a 15-year-old girl. And then it talks about a September 26th federal search warrant where an iPhone, iPad, and laptop were found. And then he made a special note in his official notes that stated, initial analysis of laptop, thousands of emails, Hillary Clinton and Foundation, and crime against children. Okay, so this was a note that was taken by the former Assistant Director of Counterintelligence after reviewing the evidence that was obtained through the Anthony Weiner search warrant, that he found thousands of emails from the Hillary Clinton Foundation that apparently had to do with crime against children. Now, I'm not making this up. You can find this in the Office of Inspector General's report that was put out about the FBI's handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation. You can find it right in there. It's an annotated note from Randy Coleman. And yeah, that happened. Now, apparently, Q's telling us these other people, Kevin Kleinsmith, Tashina Gower, Sally Moyer, and Jason Herring, are track and follow, meaning they may have more involvement than we can even understand right now. But as of now, that involvement is purely speculative because we don't know exactly what they were involved in. But I can say, if it has to do with crime against children, then I certainly hope that they are brought to justice and that they are being tracked and followed actively if they are involved in those kind of crimes. So that to me is what Q's saying, and Q's saying nothing being done, fake news, Q. And that's it. That's why they're terrified of us, because we represent a real movement with real information that is exposing them on a daily basis. And a lot of people do say nothing is happening, nothing's being done. That's one of the most common arguments I get against Q. And to me, it's a short-sighted way of dealing with this issue that is so complex and has so much such a comprehensive nature that you can't just do this stuff overnight. You can't just turn on a switch and have all of these people who are involved in these crimes be picked up because you have to build cases and you have to have those cases hold their weight in a court of law so that people who are actually guilty are convicted and we're not turned into some kind of police state where people are just picked up off the street. Not to say that in certain scenarios the military is exercising that ability to pick up enemy combatants, if you will. But let's just say that for a lot of the people involved, there has to be a due process and there has to be fact finding and there has to be investigations. And that's the stage we've been at, I think, since President Trump got in office. But look at all the progress that he's made. He's wiped out the entire top brass at the FBI. Why? Why would a president come in and do this? I mean, it's kind of unheard of and it's kind of not, because new administrations always put in new officials. But the way that this has gone, this has been incredible. And not just that they're being fired for the kind of stuff that we're dealing with now with these emails, these implications of the FISA warrant abuse, all of that stuff is what makes this exceptional and different. So yeah, you guys can put this together however you want, but whoever were involved, where you have this note made by Randy Coleman, Hillary Clinton and Foundation, crime against children, initial analysis of laptop. These notes were written right next to one another in the order they're seen there, basically. So, you guys make of that as you may. All right, so I guess we'll just go in the next one. And the next one, of course, is this, which Q is posting to his own post, the one we just went over, with this tweet right here, which actually shows something quite fascinating, okay? We're going to watch this short clip. It's a C-SPAN clip, and it's of Jason Chaffetz asking the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Inspector General for the intelligence community, right, at large, this guy, Mr. McCullough, he is testifying in front of Congress, and Jason Chaffetz basically asks him to provide them with a context of the Hillary Clinton investigation, and he's basically saying that even him, as the inspector general, the one who's supposed to be overseeing and enforcing regulations and laws inside of our own government agency, was not allowed access to these emails because they were deemed above classified for him. So listen to this clip real quick, and then we'll get back to it.
Can you provide this committee in a secure format the classified emails?
What I can, to a certain extent. I cannot provide a certain segment of them because the agency that owns the information for those emails has limited the distribution on those. So they're characterizing them as ORCON.
Explain what ORCON is.
Originator control. So I can't give them to even Congress without getting the agency's permission to provide them. So they have been provided.
Which agency?
I can't say that here in an open hearing, sir.
So you can't even tell me which agency won't allow us as members of Congress to see something that Hillary Clinton allowed somebody without a security clearance in a non-protected format to see. That's correct?
Yeah, this is the segment of emails this is why my letter back to Ranking Member Cummings had to be classified, because people would like to see this segment of emails. And this has been an issue not just with you and your committee, but with several members at this point. So we have gone back to the agency that is involved several times, and we can certainly do that again and ask permission.
Can you generally tell me, is it because they're so sensitive about signals intelligence, humans intelligence? What?
We shouldn't get into the content of these emails in an open hearing, but I'd be happy to tell you.
I don't want to violate that, but the concern is that it has already been violated, and it was violated by Hillary Clinton, and it was her choice. She set it up, and she created this problem, and she created this mess. We shouldn't have to go through this, but she did that.
This is the segment of emails that I had to have people in my office read in to particular programs to even see these emails. We didn't possess the required clearances and compartments.
So even the Inspector General for ODNI didn't have the requisite security clearances.
That's correct. I had to get read-ins for them.
Yeah, so there you go. What you just heard there was the Inspector General for the Office of the Director of National Intelligence telling the Oversight Committee in the House, or the Intelligence Oversight Committee in the House, that he didn't have access to the emails, some of them, and that some of his actual investigators and employees had to be read in, meaning they had to be brought into classified, compartmentalized operations and programs, like special access programs, that they didn't even have the classification or clearance to go to, just to look at the information that's on there. Now, my question is, does this relate back to what we've been talking about here? Obviously, these notes that were taken by the Assistant Director of Counterintelligence that was noted in the Office of Inspector General's report on the FBI's handling of the Clinton email investigation, where Anthony Weiner's laptop allegedly has or apparently contained classified emails from Hillary Clinton, and the notes taken by this assistant director here of counterintelligence refer to a federal search warrant where the iPhone, iPad, and laptop were seized from Anthony Weiner, and the initial analysis of the laptop showed thousands of emails. Then the note just says Hillary Clinton and Foundation, and then it just says crime against children. Now, is there a connection there? And it says controlled by those who worked for the Clintons. They have zero control now. Now, I'm suspecting that's talking about the ODNI Inspector General and possibly even other members there. You know, you had Representative Cummings there and Representative Chaffetz, who, you know, don't forget, Jason Chaffetz is not in Congress anymore. He resigned shortly after President Trump got into office. And Q's told us to look at people who resign, you know, with a little more scrutiny, not to mention the fact he took a cushy job over at Fox. Now he's an analyst. Just throwing that out there. But they have zero control now is a good thing. That means that Q's doing what's right. And President Trump and everyone behind the scenes are taking care of this. Now, the next one's pretty interesting. It is this document that Q wants us to look to. It's a financial disclosure from the House of Representatives for Representative Maxine Waters. Now, there's a few different things that are noted here. For instance, Q basically says this. I'll read Q post first before we look at this. It says, what does a dog do when she has a bone? You are now the news, Q. Now, obviously, what does a dog do when it has a bone? It digs. And that's what I think Q is telling us to do. We need to dig into whatever may be here in this disclosure. Now, I've looked through the boards. I've done a little bit of digging myself. I've looked at what the Anons are saying on the 8chan, on Vote. I've kind of got a few different perspectives, but nothing concrete as of yet, other than a few basically speculative guesses. First of all, the one that people look at is the 549 St. Lucerne or South Lucerne, and this is in Los Angeles, California. And one of the Anons was pointing out that it's very close to Wilshire Boulevard. Now, if you guys remember this actual video that I posted the other day, it is of this helicopter raid in downtown LA, where it was supposedly an exercise being performed by the military, but you actually saw these Black Hawk helicopters come flying into downtown LA, and I believe this is Wilshire Boulevard that they were landing on, and they were extracting something. You can see in a second, I think you'll see a team of people come out. Well, you probably just missed it. The team of people were basically right here. When the helicopter first lands, you can see you have a bunch of guys coming out carrying stuff, and I think this is like a Wells Fargo building or something. And these are military officers, military soldiers who are conducting operations in downtown Los Angeles. Now, stick around because apparently there's another military exercise being planned for DC. So we might actually get a real draining of the swamp. Now, speculatively speaking, we don't know what happened here. It's very well that it could be an exercise, but let's just say that you never know what this actually was or was not. And I encourage you guys to go back and watch this video if you guys want to see this full extraction. It's pretty impressive how they conducted that operation, and there are people like standing there with a cell phone recording this, going like, what in the world is going on, right? But that's what we're tasked to do now. So we look at the actual document itself. It kind of outlines her holdings in real estate, her holdings in different places, IRAs, retirement stuff, mortgages, different associations that she's with. But the best one I got was that one that connected the address where it's really close. I think it's like a block over from Wilshire. And that's one thing to look at. There's been, speculatively speaking, there's been other people that have said something about this American Golf venture, this joint venture, that it is a consulting income. And it's always good to look deeper into consulting, because that's a very broad term that's used to describe a litany of different things in it. And then, hypothetically speaking, that would be a good cover for some other type of operation. But again, that's speculation, so it's worth looking into and digging deeper if you would like for yourself. And of course, I'm going to throw a link to Nancy Pelosi's last financial disclosure. I believe this was her last one, 2017. It may be, yeah, I think it is. So, you can look at her holdings, where she has up to $25 million in asset value with Apple stocks and other things. So she's owning 4-story commercial buildings and all this other stuff, millions and millions of dollars. It's funny how these people go to Congress and they walk out. They go into Congress, with a net value of $500,000, and they have a $120,000 or $140,000 a year paycheck, and they walk out multi-millionaires, like they have like 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars, and you're like, I guess politics is profitable, right? I wonder why. I wonder. Anyway, the next one's very interesting. This is President Trump, and I think this is a quote from the president in the rally. But anyway, it says, this can never be allowed to happen again in our country or to another president. And I agree with that. What's happening to President Trump and our country as a whole after this whole FISA thing, everything with the emails, everything with the uncovering of this corruption and malfeasance, We can't let this happen again. It says, how do you deter and prevent this from happening again? Simply by terminating employment of those responsible, simply by conducting a few non-threatening investigations, or by prosecuting those responsible to the fullest extent of the law, setting up new checks and balances and oversight designed to increase transparency, provide the Office of Inspector General offices with funding, increase size plus authority, provide select committees with access and in-house viewing on national security classified material, provide a check on directors, department directors, assistant directors of all such ABC agencies, establish financial checks, reviews of those in senior critical positions, audits, and plus direct family close proximity. Transparency and prosecution is the only way forward to save our republic and safeguard such criminal and treasonous acts from occurring again. While some want to quietly remove those responsible and go about our business, save face on the world stage, those in control understand this band-aid will simply not work. Nobody should be above the law, no matter how massive the spiderweb is entangled. This will never happen again. Truth works. Facts matter. Q. And that's why I'm this is my opinion. Exactly the way Q just characterized all this. This is how we solve the problem. We don't solve it by having some show investigations and firing a few people. That's not going to prevent this from happening again. You have people at the highest levels of our government using the institutions and these incredibly powerful institutions and weaponizing them against American citizens. And that's just one of many different examples of the corruption and malfeasance and pure sickness that has taken over our country. But you prosecute people to the fullest extent of the law. You go establish new checks and balances that will oversee how this works. You increase funding to the Office of Inspector General so that they can oversee the agencies inside our government. Providing access to Congress of classified information, yes. Provide a check on directors and all of their underlings, yes. Especially the ones at the ABC agencies and their spouses, yeah, I think so. Financial checks, yeah, and their direct family. Transparency and prosecution is truly the only way forward, and I do believe that's the only way to safeguard our republic from such criminal and treasonous acts as Q says here. So, people want to sweep it under the rug, but I don't think that's possible anymore. That the horse is out of the barn, or whatever, the cat's out of the bag, whatever you want to say, right? That's where we're at now. So you guys can buckle up, because Q's basically let us know that President Trump is in it for the long haul. He's in it to actually fix the problem, and not just sweep it under the rug, which makes me feel a lot better. Now, this one is referring to the fact that when Q posted, I think it was this post right here, President Trump tweeted at the exact same time. And it's here, it's the different time zones. So it says 8:35, but just look at the 35, because it's the same time. And apparently the Q posted at 8:30, or I think it was 11:34, and this post is from 8:30 or 11:35. And Q's explaining how they time these posts together, right, through President Trump's Twitter. The Q post and the Twitter posts, that's one of the proofs of Q, is how they tweet and post at the exact same time, right? And that is supposed to be a signal to us, which we know, having looked back at the history of this, that this is a common thing, and that it really is something that is happening, right? But it says, Q's explaining, saying, devices in the same location with the same military encryption, with the same service, yet hitting send spreads an unusual gap, even accounting for pick, non-pick, transmit, plus, minus data too. It says, sometimes we get a hit, sometimes we don't. We are past that now, correct, Q. So what Q's saying is that they're using the same kind of device with the same kind of military encryption, in the same location, and they're hitting send at the same time, and there's this small gap because you have for instance, this post didn't have a picture, and President Trump's post did, so it takes maybe an extra half a second for that picture to load, and that's the difference in time that Q's telling us to look at, as far as the it not being exactly the same point. But I mean, gosh, you would think at this point, with the amount of tweets that we've had that have coincided directly, almost within within a minute of Q posting. So Q posts, and then within a minute of that, you see a President Trump tweet. That is something to tell you it's just another proof of Q. And of course, in the next one here, and Anon's made a graphic. They do these things. They're great, which shows the actual Q post, the one we just went over, where it says there's a 1 minute time delta. Q posted first, yet another Q proof. So Q posted first, then President Trump tweeted. So that's because it would be one thing if President Trump tweeted and then Q was posting, because then you could say, oh yeah, he's just got a really fast server. He's good at hacking, and he can see when President Trump's tweeted or whatever, and he times his post for when he sees the tweet. No. How about this? What if you have Q posting and then President Trump tweeting after? Then how do you explain that? Huh? How do you explain that, big guy? No, I'm joking. Obviously, it's just another proof of Q to look at. And the Anon says yet another Q proof. Nice work, team. And Q says something funny, kind of. Says maybe one day we'll hit the 0.0000 delta. And because Q's saying is that they got the delta down to 0, meaning they can get it inside of the minute to the very second almost. But they can't get inside to the second, or to the minute, I should say, but they can't get down to the second. They want to get it down to the second, because he's saying that if you basically got to 0.00, that it would be a 100% proof of Q, right? Yeah, because Q's saying that there's many that are within 0 delta, meaning there's only seconds between, but that doesn't cut it for Anon's Q. And it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing to say, and I think we already know at this point. And Q, but then Anon says, quoting Q and what he just said, it says, "We are past that now, correct, Q?" And Anon says, "Way past this now. People who still need proofs will never get it." And Q says, "Mathematically impossible. Those who challenge have an agenda or are simply still asleep. The narrative has them." Q. And I couldn't agree more. People who I tell about Q, I mean, it's sometimes, people are receptive, but a lot of the time, especially when it's some of my more liberal friends that I know, they will literally say, they'll like quote a fake news NBC article and say, "Oh, and you believe in the boogeyman too, and Bigfoot and aliens." And I'm like, well, you don't really know what Q is, do you? And, they always have the same kind of generic NPC response. So I don't really pay attention much anymore. Anyway, Q responding to his own post, the one we just read, saying there was a spelling error by mistake and on the move. And this is something that happens a lot, where Q will make a grammar or spelling mistake, and he'll correct it to tell us not to read more into it. And then, of course, Q just responds to his own post by saying that they don't see the error now, and that it's been a long night, and that's it. So that's where they're going to leave off. That's where I'm going to basically wrap up, except for we have this one story that I wanted to share with you guys. First of all, actually, let's talk about this story real quick. This is a great NBC News example of what fake news looks like, because they talk about how the Senate has uncovered no direct evidence of conspiracy between Trump campaign and Russia. But then in their second line of the title, it quotes a Democratic aide, an unnamed Democratic aide, who said, "We were never going to find a contract signed in blood saying, 'Hey, Vlad, we're going to collude.'" But that's the whole point. They use this vague and ambiguous investigation, an open-ended investigation, where they're basically looking for a contract that's signed in blood between Trump and Putin. And I know that that's said in jest. I know it's meant to be sarcastic, but it's so true. It embodies everything that, and I'm not going to read through this article because it's just long and boring. It talks about how they haven't found anything, which we all know that. But it talks about, it says, "Hey, Vlad, we're going to collude." And you're like, this is what they want, though. This is what they did. They set up an open-ended, vague, and ambiguous investigation so they could use it to go after the president and anyone who was in his sphere. And they kept expanding the scope to go after anyone who even, had Russian dressing on their salad. And that's how they went about violating the law and abusing the FISA warrant process. But that's for another episode, I guess. We'll just leave that. And this is the story that I wanted to share with you as well. NORAD, this is from 8 hours ago. This story that just came out today, is planning military exercises for D.C. area on Wednesday. So I'm going to go ahead and say, the bad guys, you guys are going to probably be getting picked up here in the next few hours. But have fun with that. Have fun in Gitmo. Be sure to send me a letter. I'll be sure to throw it in the garbage. All right, that's pretty much gonna wrap it up for this episode. I want to thank you guys for watching. Stick around. We have a few more things to talk about before we leave. First of all, if you want to help the channel, come here, click the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you be notified when these videos get posted. And hit that like button, punch that like button, smash that like button, whatever you got to do. Hit that like button and let them know you're here watching, because YouTube is trying to basically push us all into the memory hole, and we got to let them know we're here watching. So come watch these videos, share them on your social media, and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights down in the comments after the video. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. Another few ways you can help out the channel is to come find me over here on Twitter. This is not my Twitter. This is General Flynn's Twitter, who has a great Twitter account, which you should all go follow. But he actually changed his background picture again. I was going to talk about that, but I forgot to, but there you go. So now we talked about it. Check me out on Twitter, though. This is my Twitter, @JustinFormU. I changed my Twitter name. It's now @JustinFormU. And you guys can come here and basically give me a follow and check out all my crazy tweets where I get upset and yell and make jokes and make serious arguments. So there's a lot going on Twitter. You guys will love it. Also, go check out the official website for Just Informed Talk, which is justinformednews.com. Again, that's justinformednews.com. And also, I really appreciate you guys helping out financially. You can come find me over here on Patreon. There'll be a link in the description if you guys want to help contribute and keep this channel alive and going, especially in the face of YouTube. YouTube, I don't even want to say it's not just YouTube demonetization anymore. It's YouTube algorithm manipulation. YouTube, they don't want this content to be freely shared, because I guess they think that they are the arbiters of what is true, and that they're publishers now who can control the content on their platform. And please, if you guys haven't, watch this video where I talk about what the censorship has become. I just put this up today, and so many people reached out with so many great messages and thoughts and prayers and ideas and contributions. You guys are helping out, and the way YouTube's going, you can see my videos and the counts are going down, and it all makes sense that they're gaming the system against creators. And I hope that everyone calls them out on it, because it's really a threat to free speech in our country. And I think we should all stand up against it collectively when it happens. But again, you can come find me on Patreon. There'll be a link in the description. It's a monthly donation. It's a crowdfunding website. It's a way to support the channel and this work that I do here, and I really appreciate it. Also, I'll leave a link for this GoFundMe page if you want to do a one-time donation. Now, before we go, I want to say thank you so much for all of your support, and I want to do this section I do, or a segment I do at the end of each one of these episodes, which is called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. For this episode, I want to talk about a verse out of Ephesians, and it's chapter 6, verses 10 through 20, and it talks about Christian warfare, and this is how we should be as Christians, and when we're basically being attacked in the world, we have to remember these words. It says, "Finally, be strengthened by the Lord and by his vast strength. Put on the full armor of God so that you can stand against the tactics of the devil. For our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the world powers of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavens. This is why you must take up the full armor of God, so that you may be able to resist in the evil day. And having prepared everything to take your stand therefore with truth like a belt around your waist, righteousness like armor on your chest, and your feet sandaled with readiness for the gospel of peace. In every situation, take the shield of faith, and with it you will be able to extinguish the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is God's word. With every prayer and request, pray at all times in the Spirit, and stay alert in this, with all perseverance and intercession for all the saints. Pray also for me, that the message may be given to me when I open my mouth to make known with boldness the mystery of the gospel. For this I am an ambassador in chains. Pray that I might be bold enough in him to speak as I should." And that's the attitude I think we all should have in our lives when we fight this spiritual battle against evil. The evil exists all around us. It's in our culture, it's in the TV, it's in the radio, not everywhere, but it exists in all different parts of our culture, and we have to fight it every day. And how do we do that? We do it with supreme faith in God. We do it by recognizing that when we put our faith first, and when we put God first, and when we share the good word and become soldiers of the gospel, then that makes us stronger, and that's what's going to help save us in the time of our in the time of our salvation, which is coming through Christ Jesus. We will all have that salvation as long as we repent and turn to God. And that's where I'll leave it. I just want you all to remember that God absolutely loves you, and that I really appreciate and love every one of you out there. I thank you for your thoughts, prayers, messages, and support, because it really helps me out big time. Make sure you hit the like button if you like this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you want to help out the channel. And I really appreciate all of your help and support. That really means the world to me, and it's what keeps this channel going. And I'm thankful every day for your help. So that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.